I'm resident of Collinwood, Joel Sades for YouTube, joined by my buddy Patrick McCray and my buddy Gordon Dymowski. We're here to talk more of The Prisoner, the lady who was deaf. So they did this like a storybook, which I really love how they do the over-the-top sort of look at the book. You see the picture, and they go right into the story. It reminded me of the old Winnie the Pooh story a bit, like how they would do it. But this was done way more efficient, I felt, and much more clever. Patrick McGowan is the one reading the story. I always got that sense when I was watching it. And I really like what they do here with the woman who plays Death. She's really, really good. I feel my only real complaint about this episode, I just feel they should have just made her number 2 and not the guy. But
it was a different time. They've gotten their one Goyle number 2 out of the way. It's a boys' club.
Yeah. What did you guys think of this episode, Gordon?
Well, I traditionally, before this podcast, I really didn't care for it because to me it was just kind of silly and I wanted to get to the good stuff with Once Upon a Time. But watching it now, it just seems like it's a romp, and I can appreciate it for being a romp. And I agree. It's just like Winnie the Pooh, including the ending where Winnie the Pooh launches a rocket to destroy London. I mean, I think that's that. I'm amazed that the Milne estate or Disney did not sue them at this point. But what are you going to do?
The Pooh who is death.
Right. Death Pooh.
2000 with David Carradine.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's 20 points.
Patrick,
that's the number 2.
Patrick, what did you think?
I thought it was a zesty romp. I thought it was the feel-good hit of the season. I thought it was a bountiful harvest of good things to eat. I liked it. I mean, I've always liked this episode. This is evidence of how much variety Patrick McGowan was able to get in 17 episodes. I mean, shit, the guy did a Western episode. He did one where he's not even in it. He did the story time episode. He did ones where, he's Captain Kirk fighting a supercomputer. He did one where he's a hero trying to stop an assassination attempt of a really cool number 2. I think if it had been another number 2, he would have said, "I'll let him die." But this one is it saves me my trouble. Which one is the episode where he says, "No, you'll regret this"?
Hammer and Anvil.
Yeah, if it had been Hammer into Anvil, he would have said, "Oh, good. Well, that's it for me. I'll see you at the end of the episode. Let them do their worst." But it's like, no, you can't do that to Darren. Not Darren. He brings us caramel corn. He's great. That newspaper machine becomes a caramel corn machine in the village. It's like not bad. They have frisbee golf. Diablo 4 actually launches Blizzard, which it hasn't done today.
It's still available for pre-order.
Oh, it's available. You can maybe start playing it, except that the servers are crashing because they cut corners and didn't provide the sort of. So I've been trying to get the goddamn thing to load since 7.
I don't have that problem with Home Showdown, which is an older game. So,
well, yeah, if I want to play Battlezone, it's not a problem either.
But with this story, I really like that you have your female antagonist. Anytime you can get a really good female antagonist, she just steals this episode. I mean, really, really good. And I love the different locations they use for this. It's not done specifically within the confines of the village, which is a nice change.
I love that sad late 60s English seaside carnival.
Yeah.
And all the safety regulations it ignores that I think even in America we had. The roller coaster with no safety features at all, except for gravity, I guess.
You know, or like the little whirly things where if there's no like seatbelts, so you know one of those things could just go flying. Kind of reminded me of the neighborhood carnivals of my youth, except without the obvious potentially special people, you know, who are a little creepy.
Are you talking about the Catholic fish fries?
No. Those you knew that the creepy people were going in.
Well, they had the black outfits with the
Yeah,
white.
they usually had a black collar with a little white thing here. So
we made Jewel leave. We once again abused the Catholic Church to the point that they go.
And remember, folks, I'm Jesuit educated. I was born Catholic, so it's okay for me to say this stuff.
I had all the fingers of my left hand broken by a nun when I was 7, so I earned it too.
Yep.
I had the best of both worlds. One parent was a Catholic, one parent was a Christian.
And Patrick McGowan was Catholic, so yeah, it relates.
Yes, now, Jewel, wait a minute. You just said a Southernism that drives me crazy. One parent was Catholic and one parent was Christian. Yeah. I got news for you. Catholics are Christians. I live in a place where there's tremendous anti-Catholic prejudice. And as someone who's not a member of any of those clubs, so it's like, so you believe Jesus was the Son of God, he was born to Mary, and he died on the cross, and then he rose from the dead without eating people. That's pretty much Christian to me. I don't see the difference. I think you mean one's Protestant.
Can I tell you a story?
Please.
Yeah, so please tell us a story.
So my mother, who was Christian, okay, we were at a Catholic church, you know, mass, and the priest or father, whatever you want to call him, knew she was Christian, and he comes up to her and he goes, "So how does it feel to be a Christian inside a Catholic church?" And you know, if you knew who my mother's mother was, they were never at a loss for words. And she looks at him, and we're in church. She goes, "I don't know. Why don't you tell me how it feels to go fuck yourself?" And he just moved along, and that was the end of that. So, yeah, there's that. And mind you, I'm 10 at the time, so.
Man, I cannot believe Jewel just dropped an F-bomb on the air.
My mother.
I've heard him say it before.
My mother said the F. See, though, this to tell a story of my grandmother, who didn't.
I can't imagine what she said.
Well, my mom's mother, who didn't like her picture being taken. And I have 5 pictures of my grandmother. That's it. And one of them my wife took. My wife, Julie, asked for permission. And her brother did not ask for permission to video record her. We're at church. We're at a Christian church. We're at a wedding. And my grandmother said to her brother, "You get that motherfucking camera, you piece of shit," every dirty word. She called him every dirty word but his name. And the preacher says, "Peggy, it's okay to be recorded. What the do you know about it?"
Did you ever see Insidious?
Yes.
Patrick doesn't like his picture being taken in that either.
Yeah, I said Insidious. But again, you know, when your mother's side of the family has no problem telling religious people off, it lets you know how you sort of feel about religious personnel. So, again, I was brought up a lot differently than most. Again, my mother was a very direct person, and so was my grandmother. You're a product. Sometimes you're a product of your environment. Sometimes you choose who you are. I chose who to be who I was. My mother, she wasn't trying to be her mother. She was just, look, I'm not going to put up with shit. And that's something I took from my mother. I'm not going to put up with somebody's shit.
You know,
But for the prisoner, for this episode, I really liked the fact that they took it outside of Point Marion. We had a park. We had a cricket match. A cricket. As the Ninja Turtles say, you can't something about a crumpet to know what a cricket is. I forget the exact line of the movie. But I really like this episode. I love the action. I love the different booby traps they set up for McGowan. He looks like Sherlock Holmes at times. I love how he's in disguise, out of disguise. The cost, it just looked like everybody was having fun on this episode.
I would agree. I think they were. I know I was as a viewer. You know, there is a sad element to this episode, however, that I think is worth contemplating and talking about, and it's this. God, I feel sorry for those kids. Because there's only one thing that, there are two things that explain those kids. Somehow they have been exposed to something that makes them too dangerous to have out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're born in the village to profound lifers.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a third alternative, was that they were basically taken as bargaining chips to get people to talk, because they're not even with parents. They're in the nursery.
Wow. I mean, that honestly, and I've always thought this, that reveal is one of the, in a quiet way, one of the darkest things the prisoner's done.
Yeah, the kids being there is very sad and creepy at the same time, because you're not sure why exactly they're there. You both make great points that they could be there for exchange, bargaining chips, as you say. The kids seem very innocent. They just want stories to be told. Do you think the kids ever tried to get somebody to help them get off the island?
I suspect those kids are so indulged and tended to, with racist dolls and things like that, which is really prominent in the nursery, that they probably don't know. I mean, consider all of the village's chicanery with hypnosis and drugs and so on. They're going to keep those kids. So that's the last thing they need is, a kid running around with a hat pin after Rover.
Yeah.
Because, that's what they're going to do. Imagine the nightmares those kids must have after they see Rover for the first time and they hear it.
Yeah. Rover's, I like how they have done Rover throughout the series. I know it was a balloon, but it worked. The sound effect, it comes across.
Sound is a major element.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if there would have been a season 2, they get into how Rover was created or how it's made?
No.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think they would have. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of why Rover works is that you can't explain it. If they had, we've talked about it before, if they had the go-kart with the blue cake on it and the light, you'd always look and go, okay, your brain goes, that's a go-kart. It would have looked dumb, and you'd be trying to figure out how they did it. With Rover, it's you're curious about it, but it works so well because it's like, what is it? Is it a life form? Is it just a weird kind of machine?
Yeah.
I argue it's a life form of some kind.
Mm-hmm. They do. That's one of the weirdest things too. By the end of the series, they show Rover dying. To sort of, whether you consider it a life form or not, it's really, it is controlled. Now they do, when they hit a certain level, they do summon it up. They hit the alert, and Rover comes up out of the ocean, and it just goes. And I think that's one of the neatest things too, because I get there's a string attached to it. How long? Do you guys know how long the string was on Rover exactly?
No, and they did various things with Rover. So they used various lengths of fishing wire, which is finding it doesn't get picked up on camera.
Thank you.
They used different mixes of oxygen and helium so it had the right amount of bounce. When it comes to string,
Like
if it were pushing, let's say McGowan's walking and Rover's following him, they'd have a string tied from Rover to McGowan's waist, and with the right mixture, it looks like it's following
I didn't
him.
know that. That's great.
That's on the documentary. Don't knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But
I know that it's the same technology that they used for William Conrad on
Yeah.
Camp Jake and the Fat Man.
With this episode, what's your favorite scene, guys?
The bar.
Yeah, where he's drinking it. You have just been poisoned. And what's funny is I think that around the same time there's an episode of the Avengers that was called "You Have Just Been Murdered." And that in order to cure the poison, he has a series of drinks afterwards. It's like, whiskey, Drambuie, Grand Marnier.
Yeah. Quattro. Grand Marnier.
Malort.
Schlitz. Malt liquor.
You're gonna make yourself sick.
King Cobra.
You should really try if you ever get a chance to, Jewel, try Malort. I think you'll be very surprised.
What is Malort?
It's a Chicago area. It is a liqueur, and it's not it's known for tasting like hot garbage, but it's kind of a hipster thing.
If it's Chicago, it's made from pizza grease and meat drippings.
No, this was actually invented in the 1800s, so it's like old wood chips and shavings and pocket lint.
Okay. So it's not from the armor factory.
Right.
All right.
I'm glad you're both sitting down. You ready? I've never had a drink in my life of alcohol. Oh god. So with this episode, I really like the fact that they go when they cut from the amusement park, and I love how they do the book. It's really well done. The effect of taking you into the book that you're being told a story. And I think one of the best underrated scenes, you guys touched upon the kids. I'll touch upon them here too. When you see McGowan's face after he reads the kids' stories, he goes, maybe I'll come back to another day or tomorrow. You could tell that he knows that they're using these kids, and he does not look happy that they're using these kids either. And I love him selling that fact.
Yeah, I love the fact that his story to the kids involves heavy drinking, tons of violence, a guy dressed up like a Napoleon. And let me just say, this number 2, I think, is the single dumbest number 2 in the entire series. His big plan is have number 6 tell a story to the kids and hope that he reveals why he resigned. That is the
dumbest or the most desperate.
He's dumber than the do not forsake me, oh my darling guy who's just there. He's dumber than the change of mind guy who's just creepy. Like what? I mean, the only thing notable about him is his cosplay fetish, because he goes from cosplaying Napoleon to cosplaying a judge in Fallout. I mean, it's like that's just no, that's a stupid idea.
He looked good in the outfits, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that too. They overthought about who should have been number 2. If you'd just, again, I like the fact that they used the storybook. I don't mind it, but I do think that the girl should have been number 2. She's more of a threat in the story. And really, when you look at it too, the whole story, who's number 6 perpetrating as the bigger threat? The woman. Not her father. I mean, she's the one trying to kill everybody, including him. And it makes the episode a lot of fun because it's very cat and mouse, which I like. It's very much, it reminds you and I've been watching some episodes of Danger Man. This feels like a Danger Man episode.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have they actually do have a character, Danger Man.
And there's a cast member is named John Drake.
Yeah.
The bowler. I looked up Chelsea Barracks. It's just barracks. They built for soldiers.
I was reading on the theme park. They said it's not in service anymore. The theme park they used.
I don't know if it was in service when they made it.
Yeah.
It was pretty sad.
Yeah, and I'm amazed about Chelsea Barracks because I loved her movies.
I did too.
Let me think. Okay? So, Patrick, what's your thoughts on the number 2 of this episode? I don't think we got yours.
Really disposable. He's we don't really know that much about him other than he has a really weird plan, and that number 6 likes making fun of him as Napoleon, but that's it. At the end of the episode, in fact, he's Napoleon blown apart.
Yes. Yeah. Here's the thing too. The only thing I did not believe, and I get it, it's a part of the story, is that the guy and the girl, the lady who was deaf, were related as daughter and father. I'm like, wait, no, there's no way.
Well, in the story, they're related.
In the story.
In the village, they're not.
They're not.
Yeah, that's what I had trouble believing. I'm like, wait, there's no way they're related. You can tell this is a bedtime story for fun.
But this is number 6 kind of doing his, what you've got me doing little monkey tricks, and so I'm going to mess with you. So of course he's going to go like, oh, okay, she's probably his assistant. Let's make them father and daughter. He's got Napoleon complex. He's creepy. We can believe that.
And also remember, this is just, the kids are not getting these accurate descriptions. I don't think at any point he says, now the kids, we're going to see this madman who thinks he's Napoleon, the mad Zionist or scientist, but he looks just like number 2. Okay, is everybody with me? Okay, and no, this is all in number 6's imagination.
Yeah.
This is how he's cast it up here.
Yeah. Which is really creative, really, too, what the writers did with that. I mean, it's really cool. I wouldn't have mind also seeing in this episode if they would have went like a straight up challenge where number 6 has to save the kids or something. That would have been cool. They could have used the kids like that. But I like the bedtime story effect. It gave, like you guys are talking about, it gave a very somber, sad feel for the kids because they're there for life.
Yeah. And every week I look more and more like Rob Reiner in Spinal Tap. I'm sorry, I just got distracted by that. I'm not proud of that. There are not a lot of Rob Reiner fetishists running around out there.
Yeah, just stay away from baseball caps, Patrick. That's all I'm going to say.
I can't do. I'm a Greek fisherman kind of guy.
Patrick,
that makes sense.
Hat.
I have a perfect suggestion for you. Get your head tattooed and put flames all over it, like flame tattoos.
You're a loving friend.
Let me maybe put it in a way that Patrick might not be able to articulate. Joel, you first.
Yeah, Joel, get a bad tattoo first. That's a bad idea. Don't listen to him. He's a crazy man.
He's crazy like a fox.
I am.
He's crazy.
Oh, I love that show with Jack Rubenstein and Jack Warden. That was great.
Jack Warden.
Yeah. I will say that number 2's plan, though, is weak in this episode. I think he's more, another reason he's having to read a bedtime story to the kids is the kids are for sympathy. Like the kid, he's like, well, he'll feel sorry for those children. So, I mean, they've used women, they've used people he's known. Why not kids, And I do like that effect of it because you're getting the sense of, okay, will he tell these kids why through the story, why he resigned? And the answer is obviously no, but it's an interesting plot point.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to go through the story he's telling to look for clues for his personality. Because when
Yeah.
you're writing a story, a lot of times at least and I know it's true for me, if I'm going through a rough time, the rough time will go into the story. You know, if I'm, ooh, Patrick just disappeared. Um, sorry, Patrick. But if I'm, it's not going to be like I'm not going to, if I'm angry at someone, I'm not going to give them a fake name and I'm not going to call them like Thule Mayors or whatever. But a lot of what I'm going through may end up in the text, and that's actually a better plan than what I think what they were trying to do, which is, oh, maybe he'll slip and say, this is why I resigned. So there's a kernel of truth in trying to get, okay, it's kind of like with A, B, and C, the idea that, okay, we can figure out, we think he was going to sell out. He didn't. Here, I think instead of, if the plan was, we can get some clues as to why he might have resigned, that would have been a little bit more viable. But to expect him to go with kids and go, oh, here's why I resigned. No, I mean, number 6 ain't bother material.
No, he's not. I mean, I don't think he is. I don't think they're trying to, perpetrate that he's father material too in this episode. I do think that they're trying to take any little,
right,
I don't know, you know what I mean, jab that they can to get at his psyche, if you will, which is really interesting, that they use kids. I mean, in the same sense too, like I said, they've been using women, they use people, well, now we'll use kids. Because everybody feels sorry for a kid, and it's just like, yeah, I get that as a dad, I get that point, but at the same time, he's reading a story to kids who he knows are going to be there for the rest of their life. If I could see, like, if there were like a pre-bargain, like, well, if you do this, we'll let the kids go, and it's just like, yeah, that we don't hear that. And I don't think 6 would have went for it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of hitting on a point Patrick made before he left. Come back, Patrick, please. I'm sorry, all is forgiven. I think the fact that kids are even in the village is a bit of a dark undertone, and if I think not only they may, like you said, they may be using the kids to get to number 6, but I think those kids are being used to get to their parents who may know something.
Yeah.
So that gives it a real kind of it gives it an additional layer of ick, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I mean, the kids are not there willingly, you know what I mean? And that they're there by force and that they're being used. No matter, you're right. I do agree that they're being used against their parents, but
Right.
they're also being used against, number 6 as well. And it does give this sort of like, this is, from a psychological standpoint, it's like, holy shit, this is like sick. But it's not like for like, just speaking as an audience member, it's not like, it didn't make my skin crawl. It didn't make me feel uncomfortable. It just like, okay, I get what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, and I think too, it's kind of hard because with 60s TV, you if this were made today, you could maybe lean into that idea a little bit.
Yeah.
And the idea that, okay, these kids are just pawns like everyone else. Here, it's handled in the right tone, because you're left with, you can feel a little uncomfortable about it, or you can just see it as what it as, okay, group of kids. Number 6 is telling them a story involving rockets and Napoleon and heavy drinking.
Yeah. And it's, it's a good story. It's a fun.
Oh, jeez.
Right.
No, I'm knocking stuff over. It's scaring myself. I need to go to bed. I'm tired.
Right.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I need to bother you.
No, you're fine. But yeah, it's a good episode. I really enjoyed it overall. What did you think, Gordon?
I I liked it. It was just kind of a nice, and considering that this is that in most transmission order, this episode comes right before Once Upon a Time. You need this kind of levity before you go really hardcore into the second Leo McKern episode. You know, you were there in Degree Absolute. This is a nice breather, and it's nice to have an episode of The Prisoner that's just fun.
Yeah. I think, to be fair to the episode, a little more fair with the kids, it doesn't get so dark with the kids where it's, you know, hard to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
a right. It's like you're pointing out, it's a right tone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was not able to get Patrick back, so I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that I didn't. You know, probably. You know, Skype. I know Skype, like Zoom, can be a little wacky. So, and I know with Patrick, it also may be that circumstances beyond his control. But okay, Patrick, whatever I did, I apologize. You know,
whatever
please
I did,
forgive me.
I apologize. Oh my gosh. But overall, the episode's good. I know we have one left to go. Many happy returns. Is Tuesday good for you guys? I know Patrick.
Let me look at my calendar because I don't know. It should be, but I want to just double check. Yeah, I do have. I've got an 8:00 meeting, but that should end around 9-ish my time, which would be 9 to 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we do the usual 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, we're good.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. So I'll see you then. I'll message Patrick, or we'll talk. We'll both talk to him tomorrow night too, as well.
Now is tomorrow night the big Dark Shadows Widows of Widows Hill, or is that Saturday night?
That's Friday. That's tomorrow.
Okay, is that 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central?
I believe it's 10:30. Yeah, we're doing.
Okay, so 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Good.
Yes. I got to remember you're on Central Time. My apologies.
No problem. Yeah, and the hosts of Between the Shadows are probably it'll be interesting.
Time. Yeah, they're on Mount. I believe they're on Mountain Time. And see, now I've talked to people in California, like Don Schmidt. He's in California. John Philip Bencourt, he's in California. Like, I know there's a time difference. Like,
well, I'm just thinking more about how crazy we get. So
yeah. I don't think we'll be too crazy. It's going to be an interesting discussion. So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Have a good one. I'm sorry we lost Patrick there. I don't know what happened. So be seeing you. Have a good night.
Good night, all. Be seeing you.
Bye.